Is optometry still lucrative? How much does the average optometry make? What's the average net worth of an optometrist? Is this really a profession that we want to continue to push forward? I know for me, it damn sure is. Friends and family, welcome to Defocus Media, optometry's #1 podcast. Let's go. This is a Defocus Media production.
Audio Jungle.
What's up, everyone? It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Darryl Glover.
And I'm Dr. Jennifer Lyerly, resident optometry nerd.
And welcome to Defocus Media, optometry's #1 podcast, where we discuss the hottest topics, latest technology, eyewear, practice management, and more. So sit back, relax, and defocus. What's up, everyone? It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Darryl Glover. Today, I'm super excited because we have a rock star OD that has changed the game in eye care, that's helped a lot of optometrists be more financially stable, to help elevate their brains and their minds and get those neurons popping off to make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to do to take care of their future, their family, their practice, and more. Friends and family, I'm super excited to invite my friend, my colleague, Dr. Aaron Neufeld. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well, Darryl. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, man, thank you. I'm super excited today because we're going to talk about finances, right? And, we were having a conversation prior to kicking off this live stream and this podcast today. And, I was telling you, a lot of times as optometrists, we just sit in that exam lane and we just produce. But I don't think sometimes we sit down and think about the future. What are we producing for? Yes, we want to have a thriving practice, but what does it look like personally and also professionally when it comes to our finances? So today I'm super excited because we're going to cover a couple things. Number one, we're going to touch on what ODs in finance are doing right now. We're going to touch on an article that you wrote that just really woke up the industry in regards to the state of optometry. Is it a financially viable profession, right? So let's kick it off by just letting everyone know who you are. If you don't mind giving us a little bit of a background here. And you've been around for a while now, but someone may be living under a rock and not know who you are and all the great things you've done, my friend.
Absolutely. Darryl, yeah, so I own a few private practices. I'm out in the Bay Area, California. So we've got one in Los Altos, one in Mountain View. Also have a specialty lens clinic in Milpitas. And besides patient care and managing those practices, I also co-founded ODS On Finance. That was back in 2018. And, it started out as just a small group of ODs talking about finance. At this point, it's ballooned up. We've got about 26,000 ODs that are a part of whether it be in the Facebook group, on the newsletter subscription, and we're just here providing resources. That's all we want to do, is just continue to provide financial resources for our profession or to push our profession forward.
I love it, man. 26,000 people, 26,000 eye care professionals. That's a lot, my friend.
It is.
So, before we jump into this article, man, I would love for you to just kind of give a high level overview of what ODS on Finance is all about, right? Because I remember from day one when you guys first kicked off, but it's evolved tremendously since day one. You guys have really helped to elevate us, again, personally and professionally, whether it's, CE or articles, but kind of give us a high level overview of what this platform is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the core purpose of it is to provide financial resources so that we can be financially free, both in our practices and as in our personal lives as well. And it started out a lot of articles, a lot of guides, things of that nature. And we still do that. We've released 2 books at this point. We released one back in 2018 and one recently for students. So every student around the US has this book in optometry schools. Additionally, we do a lot of CE. So about every 2 weeks, we hold a CE event on Sunday. It's always a webinar, about 4 to 5 hours worth, always free as well. And in addition to that, we've got a lot of group buys. So if you're a practice owner, a lot of vendor deals, a lot of practice management tools. And in addition to that, we've also provided practice financing, student loan refinancing, all of that good stuff. And in our recent project, which we're announcing, and it's going to be launched pretty soon, is merchant services. So we're getting into that field and providing what should be the best effective rate out there by going directly to the source with one of our vendors.
Wow, that's incredible, man. I mean, did you think that this platform was going to be as big as it is today?
Absolutely not. No, but we are humbled, and we truly love all our members, and we love all the communication and just all the engagement that's been had.
I love it, man. And I know it's you and you have an incredible team. If you don't mind, maybe shouting out your team members, right? Because I know this is a team effort, right? This is a family. This is a community. So if you don't mind, maybe sharing, some of your team members and what they do as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the core team is myself, and I've got my co-founder, Dr. Dat Bowie. And of course, you'll see him on the Facebook group, very active, and also on our webinars as well. And he does a lot of the back end work. So the website, everything you see, all the resources, that's all him. He's creating all of that. And then Dr. Julie Fan, she's our marketing director. And of course, she's the one behind all our great vendor deals and just doing a lot for us as well. And then Dr. Chris Lopez, he's involved in the industry a lot, and he's also our career and contract consultant. So he's helped out so many ODs just getting the right job, making sure they're getting the right terms. And that's the core group. And of course, we've added a few other individuals on. So Todd Zarwell, who created iDoc, is now part of our team. And we've got iDoc under our belt, so we're expanding that out. And additionally, we also have a couple folks that manage iDoc, and then also a couple executive assistants to help manage the website.
Wow, you guys are busy, and you're still in patient care. You're still seeing patients with all of this stuff cooking up.
Yeah. So basically, no sleeping.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I mean, you and I were chatting again prior to this stream, and what I've noticed with a lot of people that are entrepreneurs, they tend to wake up early. You're a 4:35 a.m. riser, and I am as well. Today it benefited me. I've been up a couple more hours, right? I'm East Coast, you're West Coast, so sorry to bother you at 8 a.m. in the morning, but it's all good, right? We're
All
dropping
good. All good.
So let's jump into it, man. Let's jump into this article, right? You created an article that's just a game changer, and I have the article here in front of me. Basically the state of optometry. You really broke down 5 lessons that you feel that every eye care professional, really every optometrist, should know about and should really be concerned about. So let's kind of jump into it, right? There were 5 different lessons. Lessons number 1. Gross annual pay has increased. Let's talk about that, my friend.
Absolutely. Yeah, when we first decided to do this whole project, this income report, we realized that, hey, there's a lot of great income reports out there. The one thing that we noticed with them is basically the sample size, the end value was pretty small on them. 200, 300. We saw one that was at 500, and we're like, hey, we've got this community, 26,000 ODs. So why don't we leverage this, see how many people we can get to we'll survey them and see what we can get. And when we finished it, we launched it for about a month. We got about 1,900 ODs that submitted. 2,000 technically, we had to throw out some data because if they didn't answer all the questions to verify, then we didn't put that in the final data set. But yeah, we had about 1,900. And that was probably the most shocking thing was, hey, income is actually a bit higher than what the previous reports had said. And we don't know if that's because of sample size, if it's because of location. I mean, obviously, there might be an inherent bias with ODS On Finance that folks are trying to better themselves financially if they're on ODS On Finance. But ultimately, we found a good thing, which was that average compensation was fairly higher than others. And we can see the graphic right here. And the thing I really like about this is we see a pretty steady increase every 5 years. So with experience, either folks are moving up in their positions, they're negotiating better wages, or they're becoming owners as well. And we see that steady rise, which is a good thing for our industry, because one of the biggest things that we've noted with our industry and kind of this thing that's always loomed over our head is that we don't make that much money, that we go to school for 4 years, get into extra debt, and is it even worth it? You hear that conversation so much, but you're hearing it less and less these days, I feel like, because compensation's starting to be better.
Yeah, I mean, compensation's through the roof. I mean, I would die to be an optometry student coming out of optometry school right now. I mean, what these students are getting is just mind blowing in regards to, salaries and other perks. I mean, the full package is just unmatched. I mean, I never thought I'll see optometry salaries be this high personally, right?
Yeah.
But it's not all about how much you make, it's about what you keep, right? So that's another conversation that we could probably dive deep into at a later date. But when it comes to talking about gross pay and salaries, you guys put together an incredible salary map and also a net worth map. We could jump into the net worth a little later on because I know that's another one, a piece of the lessons. But let's talk about this salary, man. Where did you guys find that ODs make the most money, where they get the biggest bag at, if you don't mind sharing that with?
Yeah, I think the biggest bags are definitely in the Southeast, and that's always been the trend.
Yeah.
A lot of rural optometry there. And when you think about rural versus urban or suburban, I mean, there's higher demand, right? There's less practitioners out there. And if there's higher demand, that means you're seeing more patients, you're able to charge premiums, so you're going to be highly compensated. When we move into the urban areas, they're still doing okay. I mean, when you look at New York or my home state of California, we're getting up there, but yeah, on average, it's going to be lower because we're saturated and then there's too many ODs to go around. So that's just the nature of the game.
Yeah, and I think that's a good call out, especially for students, new graduates coming out of school. It's all about supply and demand. If you go in somewhere that's saturated, that salary is not going to be the best, right? But if you go somewhere that's rural America, it's going to be a game changer for you. Even if you go out there to practice for a few years, just think about the salary that you can make, but most importantly, think about the scope of optometry. I mean, everyone's going to be coming to see you because you are that rock star. There are no other ODs or ophthalmologists probably that close to you that someone can come to and see you for eye care needs. So there's a lot of opportunity from, the scope of optometry that you can practice to the amount of money that you can make as well.
Absolutely.
So let's go into lesson number 2, which, kind of builds off of this chart as well, right? That you have here. The average net worth of optometrists is promising. Let's dive into that.
Yeah. What we found, when we did the survey, I thought the net worth would be lower for optometrists, but it's actually fairly high when we look at the average. And I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but it was around the 800 range. You might have it on the slide there. And 800,000, I mean, that's pretty good when we look at ODs, because we were looking at a medical doctor salary survey that was done recently as well. And that was done through the White Coat Investor, which mainly focuses on MDs. And their average salary their average net worth was about 1.1 million.
Yeah.
And, considering we're the profession that always gets put as, the one that makes a lot less, we're doing pretty good. We're only 300K off. So I think that's a fairly good number. So that's the reason that I wrote that in the article. I think we're doing good. And I think we can be better, because once again, if we have good savings tactics, if we have good investing tactics, and we're bringing down our debt, obviously that's going to bring up our net worth. And as we continue to educate newer ODs that are coming out of school on this, how to tackle student loan debt, negotiate better salaries, and just save and invest, we're going to see that average continue to climb.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I love about ODS on Finance is that, there's a diverse group of ODs there, right? And they all have different strategies of how they invest, and everyone just, chimes in on different topics. And it's always good just to see, holistically all throughout the United States, what people are doing, what they're thinking, because it may be something that you're missing out on, right? But, it's just, good information to be able to go do a little digging outside of whatever that conversation is taking place on the platform. So I really, really, really do love that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, man. So lesson number 3, optometrists do not save enough for retirement. This is a conversation that I know recently, I think on the platform, a lot of our colleagues were having this conversation. Let's dive into this a little bit, man, because what's the point of making all this money if we're not putting any aside for retirement, right? I feel like if this continues to be the trend, we're going to see optometrists work until death, right?
Yeah.
I think this is a great profession, and we can definitely work as long as we want, especially being if you love the profession like myself, right? But let's talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's just as it says, optometrists do not save enough for retirement. And I'll back up quite a few years ago to when we first started ODS on Finance. The reason we did, it was actually Dat and I had this experience where we were working through a corporate location. It was before I bought my practice, before he landed his Apple job. And we both worked with an OD that was 82 years old. And the reason he was still practicing, he told us, was because he didn't have enough saved up in retirement.
Oh,
and
wow.
that kind of lit a fire under both of us. We're like, wait a minute, this shouldn't be happening, especially in an industry where we're considered high earners. Why is this happening? And so that's the reason that we kind of started ODS on Finance and launched that whole thing. But going back to the initial point, yeah, we saw on average it's about 300,000 is what ODs have saved up in retirement. We want at least 2 million in retirement at this point. And we don't know what's going to happen in the future. If inflation rates continue to rise, that number is going to have to be higher. And 300,000 is just not enough. Obviously, the folks that are close to retirement, if you break down that graphic, they're making a little bit more, and they have a little bit more in retirement. But still, I mean, I think the average was maybe close to 1 million. It's not enough. When you're approaching 65 and you're wanting to finally hang it up, it's got to be 2 million, because just with all the medical expenses you might face, all the uncertainty in life, and of course, just what's happening to our currency value, we've got to have that there.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about some strategies to get there, right? Because it's one thing to put that information out there, but, what strategies are you using personally to be able to get there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a 4-step process, and whenever we talk to schools, when we talk to students, we always talk about this. Number one, 401k. So if that's offered to you, especially if you're an associate, take advantage of that. If there's a match, absolutely take advantage of that. You're leaving money on the table if you're not doing that. So that's number one, and try to fully fund that every year. Number two, the Roth IRA. It's a great tool that you can utilize. Most of us will be above the income level for Roth IRA, but you can simply just do a backdoor Roth IRA. That's where you have a traditional, convert it over to a Roth. And that's about, at this point, $7,000 that you can utilize every year, and that can be tax advantaged. And other than that, if you have an HSA available, we call that the stealth Roth IRA. So that's a way of just saving for healthcare. And that's something that's, once again, tax advantage, and you can invest in that as well. So if that's available, utilize that. And then finally, it's just opening a brokerage account and just investing in a taxable account. So just putting money away. And if you know ODS On Finance, we advocate for conservative investing. So just doing something simple, S&P 500 index fund, just putting it away, not thinking about it, let it grow over time. Because ultimately, we're here to be optometrists. We're not here to be stock traders or anything like that. So just keep it simple. But as long as you're doing that, the main thing is discipline. If you're doing that every year, then you're going to be able to save up for retirement. And so just write up that plan, just have things in order, and you're going to be good.
Yeah, I love it, man. And for those that are just tuning in, we are talking to Dr. Aaron Neufeld, and we're really touching on this optometrist income report. For those that have not downloaded it, please go to their website, odsonfinance.com/2024 optometrist income report, and download it. This report is about 19 pages. It's a wealth of knowledge. It's a game-changing document. It can really help you figure out where you are in comparison to your colleagues, but also give you some motivation to step your game up. You heard my man. We need $2 million at the minimum. With inflation and all the rise of cost of things, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So make sure you download this report and get some game underneath your belt and step it up and take it to the next level. Now, Aaron, I got a question for you, man. One thing that I've noticed with this younger generation, they are concerned about making more money. And I've noticed a lot of folks are starting to have these side hustles. It seems like that's like a big buzzword right now. I don't know if you're getting that when you're talking to some of these students at the schools, but what kind of side hustles have you seen? What are you hearing in regards to what students are saying and some of our other colleagues out there in the eye care industry?
Yeah, I mean, side hustles are becoming a bigger and bigger thing. And once again, it's a way to make additional revenue in addition to having your main job. What I always tell students is, you're going to school to be an optometrist, so definitely focus on that. If you can focus on being the best optometrist you can possibly be, you're going to be able to leverage higher salaries, eventually become an owner, whatever you choose to do, and you're going to be able to maximize that. So maximize that first. Don't focus on your side hustle, because I feel like that's something that's become a trend, is now we're focusing more on something else. But once you've maximized that, yeah, there's great side hustles out there. There's creative ones. I know a lot of folks are wanting to go into industry, become speakers, different things like that. And that's great. But once again, I think it's important, focus on your main career first, and then look at the side hustle as well as kind of additional passive revenue. So
I love that. I mean, it's your bread and butter, right?
yeah,
I mean, to be able to sit in an exam lane and find the right solutions and educate those patients. I mean, you will never go broke doing that, right? But to your
exactly.
point earlier, it's all about being disciplined with your finances and kicking off with those 4 things that you touched on, from 401k to the Roth and the backdoor, and some of the other things that you touched on as well. You mentioned students several times, and I want to get into lesson number 4. Student loan debt is at an all-time high. This is a big topic here, and I think it's scaring future potential optometrists from joining our profession, right? And as we know, we need more ODs. We already know that there's a severe lack of ophthalmologists. We're not really seeing that profession grow, so we're going to have to be the ones that's going to have to pick up the slack and make the magic happen. So let's talk about this. Student loan debt is at an all-time high.
Yeah, this is a sad one, but it's just the reality, and we have to face it. When we did the poll, we found that student loan debt, it's averaging about 240,000 across the board. But if you focus on 0 to 5 years out, which is the new grads, they're averaging in the 300,000s.
Wow.
And that's a big number, because when I graduated, I think I had about 160 or 170. But yeah, it's just with rising costs and everything that goes with that, there's higher student loan debt at graduation. Now, it's not something that students need to be scared of Because if you understand how to approach your student loan debt, you can knock it out, even if it's a ridiculous amount like that, even if it's $500,000. But you got to have a plan, and you have to be, once again, just disciplined in approaching it. There's a few different options at this point. There's a great save plan that's out there right now, and that was enacted by the government. So that's a way of repaying student loans. Additionally, there's the old-fashioned way, refinance and then pay them off. And there's just different ways you can approach this and make it work. But you got to just do the research, educate yourself, and understand that going into the profession. And one other thing I'll mention, and you talked about this just a couple minutes ago, we're going to need more ODs. As you mentioned, ophthalmology, that's pretty much stagnated in terms of how many doctors they're producing. The population in the US and worldwide is continuing to increase.
Yep.
That means we're going to have more patients. There's going to be more opportunities. So don't be scared for prospective students or students that are going out as doctors into the world. There's going to be more opportunity, which means there's going to be higher pay. And that higher pay is going to be able to offset that higher student loan cost. But once again, just got to be disciplined in knocking it out one way or the other.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of opportunity out there. I'm curious to pick your brain on this. I know there's a lot of organizations, more the corporate optometry, that are now looking at paying for tuition for these students.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a good thing, or you think this is a bad thing for optometry?
Yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, but I think I think it can definitely be a good thing. And I've seen a lot of student loan repayment programs that go into effect if you do get a job with the corporate office, you sign a contract for a few years. And it's kind of similar to the military plans as well. So they kind of work in the same way. And even private offices I've seen have been offering this as a benefit. And if it works for you, that's perfectly fine. But once again, important to read the fine print. Get someone like Chris or a lawyer to look at it, make sure that everything's going to go according to plan, and then go ahead and execute on it. But yeah, there's a lot of great ways of tackling student loan debt now, especially because it's just become so prevalent, and pretty much everyone has some level of it when they graduate.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you're in your undergrad, you're an undergraduate student, you're thinking about getting into optometry, there's a lot of opportunity. To Aaron's point, do not get so lost in the sauce about seeing how much student debt is coming out with these new students, because there's a lot of opportunity. There's job security. And plus, you get to help people with the most precious sense, sight, right? I mean, just that is rewarding itself, right? Alone itself. So just don't sleep on this profession. It's still an amazing profession. Aaron, let's pivot to the last one here, my friend. What we have is lesson number 5. Practice ownership leads to the best financial outlook. I want to repeat that one more time, because I know a lot of people say that private practice is dead and it's not going anywhere, but private ownership leads to the best financial outlook. Break it down, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, it's just what the survey says. So when you look at practice ownership, on average, an owner makes about 100,000 more than what an associate makes. And the reason is because you get to bring home what you get to eat what you kill, essentially. And when we break down owners specifically, we look at just owners of solo practices. They're averaging around the 200,000 range, and owners that have 3 to 4 docs under them, they're approaching $500,000 on average is what they're taking home. So yeah, just in general, private practice is definitely not dead. The thing about private practice, especially for neuro-Ds that are thinking about it but not sure, is it's not the same as your mom and pop's private practice. You're not able to it's not going to be a refraction cycle. Corporate's kind of taking that over, disruption's taking that over. So you've got to think outside the box. Dry eye specialties, specialty contact lens, boutique optical. You have to differentiate and niche yourself in some way. That's how you're going to keep your patients coming in. That's how you're going to keep your revenue per patient high. And that's how you're going to be profitable ultimately.
For someone that's listening to this podcast, this live stream, whether student, season OD, how do you go about figuring that out? Because I know you have a very strong myopia practice. I would love for you to maybe touch on, how did that even register, and how did you start to build that? Because I think that's a great point. You got to find that niche. You got to find that specialty. You got to stand out. You can't do things like how we did 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, I think the big thing, and at least for me, I always knew that I wanted to be an owner coming out of school, but I didn't know exactly how my practice was going to look like. And my first year out as an associate, I bounced around at a lot of different jobs, and that gave me a lot of different experience. I worked in a peds office, worked in a bunch of private practices, a bunch of corporate locations, also a few refractive surgery centers. And that really kind of hones in and tells you what you want. If you already know what you want, then that's great. But it really helps you see what each of these different, subspecialties, if you want to call them, what they do, and also the benefit they can derive for patients. And one that definitely stuck with me early on was myopia management and control. And that's something that we've done a lot of in our practice. And it's been extremely rewarding, both from a patient standpoint. We get to see these patients, they're able to see their myopia isn't progressing. And then also from a revenue standpoint, because most of that is cash pay, and that just helps the practice grow. So just finding your niche. Once again, you're just going to have to do a little bit of exploring, but you're going to be able to find it. And once you do, just stick to it and it'll work for you.
And that's the cool thing about optometry. There's so many different modalities, so many different specialties. There's so much opportunity to, just play around in something, dabble in it. If you don't like it, move on to the next. I think the best way to learn, to your point, is experience. Don't just, stay in one place. Pivot to something else and see if you like it. If you don't, go to the next thing. And at some point in time, you will figure out what your true passion, what your true why is within optometry as well. So that's a great call out, my friend. I really like that. Man, this has been great. You dropped a lot of gems. I encourage everyone again to go to ODS On Finance and download that optometrist income report. It has a lot of great information. It can add a lot of value to who you are, but most importantly, you got to know where we stand as a profession. There is going to be a young kid that comes into your exam lane, and they're going to know why you're in optometry. They want to know if this is a profession that they can earn, a profession that they can retire on, or a profession that they can take their family's lives to the next level. So it's important to be educated about what's really cooking up and the averages and all that other jazz and where you stand, right? You may be slacking in your salary, and you may need to step your game up and see where you stand within your state. And this report, to your point earlier, Aaron, it has about 1,100, 1,200 people that actually, or more than that signed up to give this information.
1,900 on it total.
1,900. I mean, that's a game changer. That's a big pool of folks that actually, participated in this. So that's a game changer. Aaron, man, one thing that I always like to ask all my colleagues that come on this show is, what do you want to be known for when it's time for you to retire your phoropter? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? Because you've been in this industry for actually not that long, but you've done so much already. So you still got a lot of time ahead of you and a lot of time to make an impact. But what do you want to be known for, man?
Yeah, in the industry, what we want to do, we just want to make optometry a better place. We want to make it better for everyone that's practicing in it. And we want to just continue to allow the profession to go forward. There's so much disruption, and it's something that I talk about so much. Just how do we approach this disruption? And
Yeah.
we can. We just need to innovate. We need to be better, and we're going to be better. And this profession is going to continue to thrive. And I look forward to that with our future ODs.
I love it, man. I love it. If anybody wants to maybe consult with you, or if they want to join ODS On Finance, or they just want to partner with you in some kind of way, what's the best contact information or best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can always email us, admin@odsonfinance.com. Feel free to jump on the website, and you can jump on the Facebook group as well. And if you're an OD or student, we'd happily let you in and enjoy the conversation with you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man, for hanging out with me today. This has been fantastic. I learned so much. Those 5 lessons are game changers. Again, make sure you go to ODS On Finance and download that report. But most importantly, make sure you think about your future. Think about your salary. Think about retirement. Think about how you can uplift the profession, right? This is an amazing profession, and we have to continue to push it forward. We got to continue to expand our scope, protect our rights, but we got to make sure that it's a viable profession as well, right? Aaron, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Darryl Glover. Stay healthy, stay positive, and stay blessed. And until next time, peace. Get your finances straight, my friends. Talk to you later. Hey, family. If you enjoyed this full podcast, don't miss out on more engaging content. Check out the next episode right here. And for the latest updates, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Your support means the world to us. Catch us in the next episode. Peace.